Killua Zoldyck has done some amazing things in the series, from stealing a man's heart with his bare hands to killing Bodoro, the martial artist who made it to the final stage of the Hunter exam, causing him to get disqualified. He also broke free from Miluki's torture and still actually took his torture at the same time with ease, showing how dominating he is. But if you want to talk about dominance, just look at what he did at Heaven's Arena while learning Nen. He did some amazing things there, like against the wheelchair Bozo. To using a yo-yo that weighed 50 kilograms, to dominating on Reed Island his opponents, to taking Illumi's needle out and destroying the Chimera Ant Ramat and taking his head off, to lastly using what he calls lightning speed, or how do I say this, he says that's what he calls it, Godspeed, to go against Royal Guard Yuppie, one of the strongest characters, not in the arc but in the entire story. Like, there's a whole data booklet that puts him in like top 5 strongest characters. Now there's a lot of characters left off that list, so take it with a grain of salt, but 5 out of 5 for strength shows you he's comparable to Netero in his strength, physical strength. And yeah, he might be a 3 in talent, but that's still a big deal. If anybody's comparable to Netero in physical strength, yeah, that's a lot. So now that he has healed Gon from, of course, his adult Gon situation where he lost his life almost, but now he can't use Nen. Still, he should be grateful, as Jing told him, because Killua saved his life with Nanika and is now spending time with his brother Alaka and separated from Gon. This is a very big deal. We all know he will reunite with his best friend Gon to head to the Dark Continent, and with his promise to Silva about betraying his friends, expect Silva to meet Gon in the Dark Continent, the friend that Killua keeps mentioning. And when he runs into Killua, there's gonna be some intense moments. So let's do a deep dive on Silva before we talk about how Silva and Killua will have a huge moment in the Dark Continent. Now, the first time Killua mentions his parents, he talks about how pretty much they're mass murderers and says, just kidding, but Gon knows he's telling the truth. So he reveals his origin and how he slashed his mom and he stabbed his older brother. But still, his dad was a mystery, and it definitely built up this legendary family of the Zoldicks. Then during the Hunter exam, Killua takes away this man's his inmate's heart with ease, and then he highlights his father able to do it without even leaving blood on the wound, showing how deadly Silva is incomparable to Killua. And we're just shocked of Killua's like insane assassin abilities. And yeah, Silva is not even close to Killua. It's like he's way stronger. We even see when they actually go to their house, there's a testing door, and they explain how each door weighs 2 tons, each set of doors, and there's 2 sets of doors. So, and it multiplies every single door. So if the first set of doors is 2 tons each, so it's 4 tons, then Killua was able to open 3 doors of it, and he's able to open 16 tons. That is insane. I know Silva's able to do all 7. He can do 256 tons. I think that's 550,000 tons. Don't quote me on that. But all I'm trying to say is, yeah, the Zoldicks are insanely powerful. And when we finally see Silva, he's really warm to Killua, and I like that trait he has, because you expect some savage monster for an assassin, but he seems like a really chill guy, honestly. He's like, what are your friends like he's asking Killua how his friends are. I like that energy he's giving to his son. It kind of felt like the opposite of Jing, since Jing was never there for Gon, and Silva looks like he was always there for Killua, but he just wanted him to live a different life. I like how Togashi differentiates the main character's father situation, and he starts to hear all of Killua's exam stories. Honestly, Silva looks like a great dad. Silva then asks Killua, what do you want? And says there's pretty much no meaning to their father-son relationship because he raised Killua to be an assassin, showing how self-aware Silva is. And he's even doubting his own job. Like, this is a very introspective father, if I'm being honest. Silva then tells Killua he's no mere extension of himself, and he realized the day that Killua left, he says you're your own person, you follow your own path to follow, and pretty much maybe it'll lead you back to here. And he even asks, would you like to see your friends? Seems like Silva knows what will happen and wants Killua to see for himself how the world is. Silva then tells him to promise him he'll never betray his friends, and does a blood promise with Killua, meaning either Silva betrayed his friends in the past or they betrayed him. But Silva has some sort of friend issues. Like, you hear about daddy issues and all that. Friend issues is crazy. I wonder what happened. Maybe he had to betray his friends to actually follow into the family business. Who knows? And then we see Killua's mother snapping on Silva, and it's kind of like a husband-wife relationship you see in a lot of real life and TV shows. And Silva says he needs to go see for his own eyes, pretty much. He needs to go his own way, and don't worry, he'll be back. And it's like very evil the way it's shaded, like he's in a shadow when he says it. It's like Silva knows something that we don't know, and then he says he is my son, meaning Silva is very pessimistic on how the world works, and knows that Killua is going to look at the world the same way as him and see what's actually going on, and just pretty much expects Killua to come back. Now later on, we see that Killua actually reveals that Silva killed one of the Phantom Troupe. The reason why this is such a big deal is because we saw how hard it was for Kurapika to kill Uvogin. Now Uvogin is one of the stronger Phantom Troops, and we did get a whole Phantom Troop mini flashback in the manga, but still, the Phantom Troop are very powerful, so to kill one is a big feat. I know Hisoka going ham, killing Shaunark, as people are down, but no, killing a Phantom Troop is still a big deal. And mind I add, Hisoka killed Shaunark, who didn't have his Nen ability. His Nen ability was given to Chrollo, same as Troupe. So yeah, I thought I mentioned that as well. Silva even told his family that the payment wasn't worth it. Pretty much, Killua explains how if Silva says this, it means he's complimenting his fighter. And then tells his family, don't go near the Phantom Troop. Ironic for what's going on right now, but still, Silva knew the Phantom Troop meant business. There were some powerful fighters there, and he did not want to lose his family members in any situation. Now, we all know the Shadow Beast got destroyed by Uvogin, and pretty much were not really a threat. Even though they're the strongest Nen users of the 10 Dons, yeah, they got pretty much pulverized, and that's what forced the 10 Dons to call professionals, and Silva is highlighted with Zeno as the professionals being called up. It's explained that they wanted to save time by doing the job faster, and calling Silva and Zeno is your best bet. I agree with that. I found it very interesting when Silva and Zeno were in the meeting of the 10 assassins that are hired to go kill the Phantom Troop. They say they don't take any orders from nobody. It shows how epic and confident they are in their skill. Kurapika sees Killua's family and says, yeah, their aura is superior to everyone else. Even the other assassins know the difference between Silva and Zeno and the rest, so I respect that their power is legitimate. They're so cool and badass, they even denied a map of the building because they wanted to check for themselves. They trust their aura, their Nen, more than the map. Like, they're just amazing in all assets of Nen and power and just monsters. I found it very cool that when the first time we actually see Silva do anything physical, he punches the wall and it almost breaks, and he gets everyone's attention. That is power, in my opinion. And then we see Silva and Zeno actually walking around the mansion or the building, wherever they are, where they're trying to hunt for the Phantom Troop, and they analyze, and they see an assassin that's dead with one strike to the back of the head, but there's no bloodlust. Silva really analyzing really well here, because you know Zeno's more smarter. Like, I'm not gonna say smarter, but looks like he's more battle IQ compared to Silva. But Silva's battle IQ is still underrated. He still has legit battle IQ. And then we see a situation where Silva's like, yo, can you do 100 meters of your end? And Zeno says, I can do 300. Pretty much shows that Silva is doubting his father's strength, knowing that he's out of his prime. So that might confirm that Silva might be stronger than Zeno from this situation right here. Then they see Chrollo, and pretty much Silva warns Zeno that he can steal abilities, showing that Silva has obviously ran into Chrollo before in the past. The fight is very intense, and one of my favorite fights in the series. Chrollo dodges a first kick from Silva, and we start to realize, yeah, they're really jumping this guy. We then see Silva come back in action, and he punches Chrollo after Zeno's attack, and Chrollo blocks it instead of dodging this time and gets sent back. Later on, we see Silva come from out of nowhere with that famous leg stomp, and we see that Chrollo actually counters back after he dodges Silva's leg stomp. He actually counters back, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Silva looks to be very good at enhancing from what I've seen from his combat ability. Even though he's not an enhancer, he looks to be really good. Silva then says it must be a pretty good knife to cut me, showing how durable he is, and even knows that it says the knife is a mid-era Ben's knife, and we know that it has the aura. It has the leftover aura from the serial killer, and even says it must be poison, and quickly ties his arm tight. As Chrollo says, this 2v1 is going to be very tough. It shows how powerful Chrollo is, but also he respects, like, yo, these guys are not slouches. So, yeah, they're jumping Chrollo, but Chrollo knows, yeah, these guys are not scrubs. Chrollo's very powerful, too. Like, in the data books, he's, like, top 5 to 10 powerful Nen users that are listed. Chrollo's actually impressed because he poisoned Silva, and he knows that poison has enough dosage to paralyze a whole whale, showing how durable Silva is. Zeno then tells Silva to cover him and pretty much says to kill me as well when you're doing the finishing blow. A lot of people looked at this as Zeno being stronger than Silva, but I just looked at it as Zeno probably sacrificing himself compared to Silva, knowing that Silva's the head of the family. Silva realizes Chrollo's power is gone when he closes his bandit secrets. It's really good information if he ever runs into Chrollo again in a fight. And he even says, how can Chrollo dodge Zeno's attacks while watching him? showing how Chrollo is a monster still. Like, I'm not going to downplay, he's still fighting 2 legendary fighters. Silva even says that Chrollo got stronger since the last time they fought, confirming that they actually fought in the past. And the fact that Silva left and Chrollo survived, it looks like Silva did not succeed in killing Chrollo like an assassin usually succeeds when they do assassinations. But it looks like Chrollo didn't succeed in stealing Silva's powers. I thought that was very interesting. It looks like to be a deadlock tie when they actually did fight, but I don't have confirmation. But the fact that he said that Chrollo got stronger, maybe Silva was overpowering him, who knows. And then Silva says we may have to sacrifice our lives to finish him, as he bumps his Nen up a little bit, knowing that it's time to get serious. Silva turns into this crazy Saiyan with 2 huge Nen Ki Blast, and we find out that he's actually an emitter through the situation. Kind of reminds me of what Jing did in the Dark, and that very Voyage to the Dark Continent. He's using Leorio's ability, who's also an emitter. But yeah, it's been even cool how Zeno even orders him to finish him off. Like, yeah, finish him off. It's pretty cool to see. And the aftermath of this finishing blow is both their clothes are roughed up as they throw the rubble off of them. No way Silva was going for the kill just from seeing this. I can't believe this. Like, both of them alive? No. I think Silva definitely held back a little bit. So Chrollo asks Zeno who would have won in a fight. And Zeno says, I would have won, of course. And then he says, unless you were trying to kill me. Showing that Chrollo was trying to steal Zeno's ability. He wasn't actually trying to kill him. And if he was, Chrollo would have beat Zeno. But I don't think this means that Chrollo would have beat Silva, because I think Silva is stronger than Zeno. So I thought that was interesting. And the fact that Togashi highlights Silva giving an eerie look to Chrollo, I think kind of confirms my suspicions. We also see later on in the story Killua revealing Silva's mentality when it comes to combat, which is never overreach your limits. Make your move only when you're 100% positive you can kill. Otherwise, wait and don't show your powers. It's dumb before the fight. Looks like Silva is a very tactical fighter from what I know. Like a super tactical fighter. And I think that's very interesting. Later on, we see Zeno, of course, telling Cheeto to watch your back. And he's not in a good mood because of course, the whole Komugi situation. But regardless, we see that Cheeto ignores this. Now, Cheeto is not your wimpy Chimera Ant. He's one of actually more stronger Chimera Ants. Not Royal Guard level, but he's one of these stronger Chimera Ants who's dealing with Morel, a pretty powerful hunter. And so when we see a huge blast come from up top, and Zeno even say the outcome would have been the same even if you blocked it, whoever did that blast is a monster. Yep, that's right. The person who did that blast was Silva, and Silva kills him in one blow. He kills this monstrous Nen amped up Chimera Ant in one hit. And even asked, should I have spared him? It makes me think, what if Silva fought one of the Royal Guards? If we saw Killua go at it with Yuppie, what if Silva fought Yuppie? I don't know what it is, but I want to bet my money on Silva. Even though Yuppie is very powerful, one of the strongest characters in the story, I just want to bet my money on Silva. Silva then begins to ask Zeno some questions about Killua, because Killua was like one of the main characters of this Chimera Ant arc, since Zeno was a part of it. He says, how's Killua? And then, of course, Zeno explains how he's more mature, and he doesn't have the needle anymore that Illumi and Silva, of course, have to do with that. And then Zeno says that time feels condensed, which confuses Silva pretty much. I think he must be referring to the whole Metawum Chimera Ant arc situation when Nestor came in. Like, a lot of slow motion things were going on, but he also could be referring to just some crazy aura from Metawum that he witnessed. All in all, I think this is a very cool scene between these two. On the final time that we see Silva is during the election arc, when Killua tries to take his brother. Silva says, forget it, no one can control Alaka. And I think he probably knows about the Dark Continent lore of the Calamity and how X Zoldyck's connected to it, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Things got tense when Silva said that thing isn't human. Don't consider it family. Killua was pissed off, and his aura goes up a little bit, and Mike feels it, and it was about to go down. Like, between Killua and Mike, obviously Silva's just relaxed and chill. And Silva only allowed it because of the blood promise of not betraying a friend that Killua and Silva made back in the early days of Hunter x Hunter. Now, mind you, this just shows you how logical Killua is. Killua is very logical, and that was a very smart move to outsmart his father here. But I feel like Silva really didn't want Alaka to leave. And Silva kind of says something that's very interesting. It's very, like, how do I say this, sympathetic, and it's really a lot of moral-based things he says. He says he cares about Alaka killing more people. And Killua says, we killed more people. And then we see how the promise mattered because of the fathership of Silva. So I thought that was interesting. We also see Miluki says, oh, the computer wish I did was not a big deal to Alika. And Silva looks pissed off. I've never seen Silva this pissed off. Even Miluki just apologizes. It's pretty funny. Miluki then says that Killua's mind is different. That's why Silva and Illumi use the needles. I agree. I think that Killua's mind is completely different from his family. I think his families are Adam's family, like in a sense of like they're kind of like batshit crazy compared to Killua. Killua's more grounded in a sense, while their family is more like, how do I say this, in their head. But I'll explain that in another video when I discuss the Zoldyck family and analyze it for you guys. I found it interesting seeing the relationships of Silva and his family, from his butlers to his father, and they have a give and take relationship, to Illumi, who also has a give and take relationship with Silva, and Miluki just obeys. I found it super interesting. I wonder how that's going to play a part when the family's dynamic have another moment in the future, not just an election arc. And also, Killua reveals that Silva wants Alika's power to control it. He's a very smart man. He just wants it for the future, but knows his family could die. And this could lead to, in my opinion, Silva actually heading to the Dark Continent because of Alika. With Alika being a calamity, this could lead to us finding out if Silva has ever been to the Dark Continent first off. Or does this have to do with X Zoldyck, who went with Netero years ago? I think with Illumi and Chrollo to join the Phantom Troupe instead of staying away like Silva said, and now they're heading to the Dark Continent and it's a succession arc, Silva will have to stop any more problems from this forbidden land beyond the Lake Morbius and go himself where he will see Killua. But instead of Silva exploring like Jing, Gon's father, a descendant of Dawn Freaks, who could be still exploring for 300 years, I think Silva will die here, leading to Killua having to be the head of the family. And don't be surprised if Maha and Zeno accompany Silva and also die, showing how devastating the Dark Continent is. It will also be interesting if like it's a very sentimental moment for Killua and he sees his father dying. This family will break apart, leading to Killua changing the Zoldyck name and how they are as a family, because he is different from his family. So the only way you can change something is by starting off with one, and I think Killua was the one to start off by changing the ideals of the family. They could never be an assassin family again after Killua takes charge, and I feel like Silva's, when he does die, it's gonna be so badass and epic like Netero. You have to understand, Silva is a legendary assassin, so he's killed so many people, so him dying is going to be a little bit poetic, and Silva and Killua might even discover Ziggs still alive with Dawn Freaks, which would be crazy. And Zeno's father could be X Zoldyck from the theories, and he could still be in the Dark Continent. Who knows? There's so many things that can happen. Togashi's making 50 chapters of Hunter x Hunter, and I can't wait for all those 50 chapters to come out. It's probably going to end the succession arc and start the Dark Continent arc, where we see Silva and Zoldyck, Jing and Gon, and just hype. So debate in the comment section.